Welcome to today's Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here. Today, we're diving straight into a dynamic that affects so many of us. Yet, it rarely gets talked about in a way that actually makes sense. We're going to explore exactly why some of us act like a psychological sponge for the repressed darkness, the hidden anxieties, and the unspoken tension of literally everyone around us. If you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by a room's energy, you are absolutely in the right place. Let's get right into it.
I want you to picture this visceral, almost physical feeling. You walk into a brightly lit office, or say you're sitting down at a seemingly happy family gathering. On the surface, everyone's smiling, everyone's acting perfectly polite, but before a single word is even spoken to you, your chest tightens. The ambient noise of the room just kind of muffles, and it's replaced by this low, heavy, uncomfortable frequency. Instantly, you're absorbing the unspoken resentment, the hidden anxieties, and the unacknowledged grief of others. You are essentially operating as the human sponge.
Now, for most of your life, society has probably handed you a very specific set of labels for this exact experience, right? They call you an empath. They say you're highly sensitive, or even worse, they just dismiss you as being overly emotional. And what's their grand advice? They tell you to just build walls, stop overthinking, block out the world. But Carl Jung, one of the most profound psychological minds in history, observed this exact phenomenon in his own patients. And he realized that society's labels are a complete misdiagnosis of what is actually a profound psychological ability.
What's really interesting about this next idea is how Jung reframes the experience entirely. He called it differentiated perception. You are not imagining things, and you're certainly not broken. Your nervous system is simply operating as a feeling perceiver. This means while other people might just intellectually notice, that a room is a little tense, you don't just observe it, you literally physically absorb those emotional dynamics. It's an incredible psychological gift for sure, but without protection, it leaves you incredibly vulnerable.
Let me pause right here and ask you to be brutally honest with yourself for a second. How many times have you walked into a social event feeling completely fine, your energy is great, only to leave an hour later feeling a crushing, unexplainable exhaustion that even a full night of sleep can't fix? I want you to tell me in the comments below. If you're constantly carrying this heavy emotional weather for other people, we really need to understand the psychological trap you're caught in.
Let's move to Section 1, the collective shadow explained, understanding unconscious agreements. Let's see how this builds. To truly grasp this social exhaustion we just talked about, we first have to uncover the shared unconscious agreements that govern practically every family, social circle, and workplace on the planet.
You see, every group operates on what's called managed blindness. Think of it as a collective, silent agreement to just completely ignore uncomfortable truths. People sweep toxic behaviors and suppressed anger right under the rug so the group can comfortably keep functioning without any conflict. But here's the catch. Because your nervous system is so highly calibrated, because you have that differentiated perception we just defined, you simply cannot participate in this managed blindness like everyone else. Your brain literally won't let you ignore it. So what happens to all that ignored tension? Well, Jung called it the collective shadow. This is all the rejected, buried psychological material that a group absolutely refuses to consciously face. The suppressed jealousy, the unspoken anger, the hidden grief. And because the group is ignoring it, it just hangs there in the air. This dark, suppressed material is exactly what your highly sensitive nervous system is acting as a giant magnet for. Section 2. The danger of identity erosion when boundaries dissolve. Now, we need to shift gears for a moment, because feeling tired is one thing, but there is a terrifying psychological danger to constantly absorbing this hidden collective shadow without protection. It's a genuine threat to who you fundamentally are. Jung warned of a psychological state he called participation mystique. This is really the root cause of what we call identity erosion. It happens when the boundaries between your individual psyche and the surrounding collective just dissolve entirely. When you're continuously absorbing the unconscious emotional contents of everyone around you without a clear boundary, it becomes almost impossible to tell where your own authentic feelings end and where everyone else's begin. You literally lose yourself in the emotional soup of the room. So the crucial point is this: without clear, deliberate boundaries, you literally become a dumping ground. You transform into a passive psychological container where the group deposits the exact toxicity, stress, and shadow material that they flat out refuse to face themselves. You end up carrying their weight so they don't have to. Think about the absolute irony of the modern wellness industry for a second. They'll happily sell you a $40 lavender bath bomb, a premium meditation app, and some sage to try and, cleanse your aura.
But let's be real here. If your identity is dissolving because you're acting as a sponge for the repressed neuroses of your entire office or your whole family, a spa day isn't going to save you. What's actually needed is a psychological hazmat suit.
Moving on to Section 3, becoming a conscious witness, wielding the gift. The really good news is you can actually build that suit. You can't turn off a gift by calling it a curse. You can't just miraculously stop being perceptive. But you absolutely can learn to wield this ability with greater consciousness through deliberate integration. It's time to take your power back.
Jung's work provides us with two non-negotiable, highly tactical steps to successfully shift away from being this overwhelmed sponge. Step 1 is recognition and separation, and Step 2 is building psychological containers. Let's break these down so you can actually start using them today.
Step 1 requires stepping back. Because you spent your life blending into the emotional environment, you really need daily quiet solitude to let all that environmental noise settle. When you get quiet, your own voice finally becomes audible again. And when you re-enter those spaces, you must constantly ask yourself a simple filtering question. Where did this feeling come from? Is this mine? Simply tracing the origin of an emotion is very often enough to stop the contamination right in its tracks. It breaks that spell of absorption.
Section 4, building psychological containers, the first responder approach. Okay, let's dive into this next phase, which is arguably the most vital step of all. This is where you shift your identity entirely. You stop being a passive victim to the room's energy, and you build a structure strong enough to withstand it.
And this brilliantly illustrates how building a psychological container means actively changing your role from a helpless, unconscious absorber, someone who just takes in everything by default, into a highly grounded, conscious witness. You still see everything, you still feel the reality of the room, but you absolutely do not take it into your core. Think of it through this powerful metaphor. A trained first responder can walk into utter chaos, be fully present to the crisis, and yet not be destabilized by it, right? They don't take on the injuries of the people they're helping. They can perceive the unspoken manipulation or the hidden grief in a room, but they can always reliably return to their own untouchable center. That is exactly what a psychological container does for you. It allows you to be emotionally present without losing your footing.
I want to look directly at you right now and challenge you, because this is where the real work begins. Whose specific emotional tension, fear, or suppressed anger have you been unconsciously carrying in your own body this week? Is it your boss, a partner, maybe a parent? I want you to name the specific source of that contamination in the comments below. Acknowledging exactly where that energy came from is the very first step to taking it out of your body and handing it right back to them.
If you have spent your whole life feeling like a magnet for the world's pain, please hear me on this. You are not broken. Do not try to numb yourself or lower your frequency just to match the unconscious people around you. That's a huge disservice to your profound perception. The real work is to become equal to what you carry. You must rise up and build internal structures strong enough to hold your incredible gift. I'll leave you with this final empowering thought to carry with you. Stop trying to fix the shadow of every room you walk into. It is not your job to process everyone else's unacknowledged baggage. Step into the quiet power of simply being a witness. See the tension, acknowledge the unspoken truths, but let it stay theirs. Witness the darkness, do not absorb it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I'll leave you with this to ponder. If you actually stopped carrying everyone else's shadow, what incredible things might you finally have the energy to build for yourself? Keep building those containers, and I'll see you next time.